I found this recipe on the Farmer's Almanac website. I really love that website. It's very Americana. What's good about America? Some of the things that are good about America, at least planting, and I don't know, I don't have time to go into all the ways that the almanac is cool. I'll just talk about this recipe. They do put up some really good recipes, and it's fun because they're American recipes. And while I love trying things from different parts of the world, I also love, especially on Thanksgiving, just having some good American food. So this recipe is really different. This is a pie. It's an upside down apple pie with pecans. Now that sounds weird, doesn't it? Upside down pie? Heard of upside down cake, you know, like pineapple upside down cake. This is a pie. And I'll talk more about why it's upside down, but first I want to talk about pie plates. There's different kinds, and you need to know this. It says to use a 9-inch pie pan. Unfortunately, it doesn't say whether it should be a 9-inch deep dish pie pan, which is this one, or a 9-inch regular pie pan, which is this one. Because I've decided I'm going to go with, I think, I have to make this decision. I think I need to use a deep dish, although this lip might create a problem. It's wider than this lip, as you can see. That would be better. The thing is, the recipe says to use 6 to 8 tart apples, and I've decided to use Granny Smith, and I left the tags on just so I could complain a little bit. Why do we have to have tags on our produce? This is a little plastic thing that's gonna go into the ocean, or I don't know where it's gonna go. But I wish they could come up with a way to sell produce without putting plastic on it. Anyway, here's the apples. That's a lot of apples, and that's 7. It said 6 to 8. I decided to go with 7. So once I peel these and slice them, I think it's going to be too much for this regular 9-inch pie plate. I think I'm going to have to go with the deep dish pie plate. Anyway, we'll figure that out. So why is it upside down pie? Because we're going to start off with some pecans. Actually, we start off with some butter. I'm going to take half a stick of butter and butter the pie plate. That's going to be a lot of butter, more than we usually use just for greasing something. But then there's a reason. I'm going to put the butter in. Then I'm going to arrange these half pecans into some kind of design in there. And then I'm going to put some brown sugar, and I'm going to have 2 crusts. It's not unusual to have a double crust pie, and that's what this one is. So then after I put the butter, pecans, and brown sugar, I don't think cinnamon. Anyway, I think that's all. Then I'm going to put a pie crust over the nuts. Then I'm going to put in the filling, and then I'm going to top it with another pie crust, and I'm going to bake it. And when it comes out, you put a plate over the top and flip it. And that's why it's an upside down pie. So I thought it sounded fun and delicious, so that's what I'm going to try. So what else do we need besides pecans and butter? We need brown sugar, and I always prefer to use dark brown sugar, but it doesn't specify. I just like that flavor of molasses that you get. So there's brown sugar, there's also white sugar, and of course all-purpose flour. Need all-purpose flour for the crust. I showed you the apples. We're going to have cinnamon and nutmeg. Oh, and it said to use either grapes or currants, dried currants. And I decided I'm going to use dried cranberries. I'm not going to make cranberry sauce because I'm not a huge fan. I do have a pretty good, I have a very good recipe for a cranberry sauce with blood oranges, but just for Marty and me, we're not going to eat enough. I will say this. I also found another recipe on the Farmer's Almanac website for a cranberry cake that uses leftover cranberry sauce. So someday I'm going to make that, but not today. Anyway, I'm going to use dried cranberries. Oh, and there's some lemon juice. So I need some lemon juice. I think that's everything. That's everything. So I'm going to start off, believe it or not, with the dried cranberries. So I forgot to mention, I also need some apple juice, just a couple of tablespoons. So I'm going to soak the cranberries in apple juice for at least a half hour. Don't worry, I won't make you wait for that. I have a half cup of dried cranberries here, and I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of apple juice in it. And it doesn't say to do this, but I'm going to stick this in the microwave just for, I don't know, maybe 15 seconds, just to kind of warm up that apple juice. This is just to plump up those cranberries or raisins or currants if you use those, just to kind of plump them up a little bit. And it's going to work better if it's a little bit warm. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, I've done that and they're soaking, and I don't know, maybe I'll stir it every now and then. 2 tablespoons doesn't really cover the cranberries, even in that small dish that I have. So maybe I'll stir it now and then. So now I'm going to prepare the apples. I need to wash them, peel them, and slice them. And then I'll make my final decision about which pan to use. I don't recommend making this pie without peeling the apples. You probably could, but I wouldn't. They're not going to cook at the same rate. So let me show you a couple of ways. You can peel with a vegetable peeler like this, and that probably takes the least amount of peeling away. It's kind of, I don't know what takes longer. I'm not going to recommend one over the other. You end up with these really thin peelings, and that's okay. Okay, another way you could do it is, did you ever see Sleepless in Seattle? The little boy said his mother used to be able to peel an apple all in one piece. And you could do that. Although I'm not doing the spiral way that Meg Ryan did in that movie. It's possible, but I didn't do it. Now, the other thing is, my mother used to cut good chunks with some apple in it, and she would always give those to me to eat because I loved the peelings. So I'll save that for later. I'll try to go thin. Have you ever seen one of those machines or pictures of one of those machines where you put an apple on like a skewer and it has a blade and you crank it and it twirls the apple around, peeling it as you go? I have always thought that looked ridiculous. You know, you got to have a machine to peel an apple. Well, I just finished 7 apples and I thought I'd use it if I had one, but I'm not going to buy one just for apples. Anyway, here they are, all peeled and ready to be cut up. So I'm going to slice them now. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. Cut it in half. Take out the stem. cut it in quarters. Cut away all the little bits of peel that are left. And then cut into this. I'm going to get those seeds out. And you want to be sure you get all of that, I don't know what that stuff is. The hard stuff that surrounds the seeds. You don't want to have that in there. So here you go with this. And then I'm just going to slice it like this. Not everybody does it this way, but it works for me. So I'm going to go ahead and slice everything and then go to the next step. Whew, that took a long time. I have them all sliced, and I didn't tell you how thick, but I sliced mine about 1/4 of an inch thick. You really don't want to go, thicker than that. On the other hand, you don't have to have paper thin slices either. You just want them to be able to all cook. So, if you have it too thick, I don't know, won't cook as well. 1/4 of a teaspoon, aim for that. I mean 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so I've got my bowl of sliced apples. I'm gonna go ahead and put the stuff in that I need before I make the pie crust. So let's get this apple filling put together. I'm going to put, first of all, 2 tablespoons of flour in here. And I'm going to use measuring spoons today. It's a new recipe. So there's 1. I'm more careful about desserts. I mean, this one, yeah, I could have used my, spoons that I usually use that aren't measuring spoons, but I feel like using the measuring spoons. So I put 2 tablespoons of flour in there in the apples. Next, I'm going to put, a 1/2 cup of sugar. I need some sugar. So I got a 1/2 cup of sugar. Sprinkle that in. Okay. Then lemon juice. I need, excuse me, I need 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. By the way, when you're cutting up a bunch of apples or some apples, and you're going to be serving them raw, maybe in a salad or, I don't know, whatever you would eat, whatever you would use apples for raw, what I do is mix 1/2 and 1/2 lemon juice and water and put it on the apples and mix that up, and that'll keep them from browning. But anyway, back to this filling for our pie. I need 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I have this little container of lemon juice left over from another time. I don't think it's going to be enough, but we'll find out. And I'm going to use this because my tablespoon measurer is coated with flour. So let's see how much I have here. There's 1. It looks like I've got maybe 1 1/2. So it's pretty close. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this lemon and just put a little squeeze in there. Before I cut a lemon or a lime, I like to do this. Kind of put some pressure on and roll it, and it kind of breaks down those bits of lemon, the pulp. It breaks down the pulp just under the skin and makes it easier to squeeze all the lemon juice out. Okay, I don't want this seed in there, so I'm just going to do a little squirt. That's 2 tablespoons, I'm sure. I'll juice the rest of that orange later and save it for the next time. So that's the lemon juice. Next, I need some cinnamon and some nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of each. So I got my cinnamon. Oh, it's such a wonderful smell. Teaspoon of cinnamon. And I need a teaspoon of nutmeg. Got lumps. Okay. And now we're just going to stir that up and set it aside so I can make a pie crust. Okay. Now set that aside. Okay. Might need a little bit more water to make the mat stick. So here's my pastry mat. And then I'm going to wipe it with a dry towel just to make it stick. That water underneath will make it stick so it won't slide. All right. Let's make a pie crust. So we're going to double the recipe. Remember, this is a double crusted pie. So instead of 1 1/3 cup flour, we're going to start off with 2 2/3. So here's the bowl. And yes, I'm using the measuring cups. I want to get this right. There's 1. 2. And I have a 2/3 cup measurer here. So I'll just do this. There's the flour. Now, I'm not going to put the flour away because I'm going to need some on my pastry board, pastry mat. You know, you can buy a ready-made pie crust, but I don't think you should buy one that's in the pan already. You could make it work, but I think you can buy sheets. I just always make my own. It's not hard. Okay, so that's 2 2/3 cup flour. Now I'm going to need some salt, and I usually use 1 teaspoon. No, I'm sorry, I usually use half a teaspoon. So today I'm using 1 teaspoon. So this has spices on it. I don't want to put the spices in it. Okay. So 1 teaspoon of salt. Then I'm just going to put it in the mixer and just stir it up a little bit. Okay, it's all mixed up. Now we're going to add 1/2 cup of shortening. And it shows on the package, the Crisco package, you know how much is a 1/2 cup. So 1/2 cup of that, and 1/2 cup of cold butter. It needs to be cold. And 1 stick is 1/2 cup. So I like to cut the butter up in chunks. Makes it go faster. So I'm just gonna grab a butter knife and just cut it into some chunks. You know, the smaller your chunks, the faster it's going to incorporate in the flour. So I'm just gonna do like, but you want to move fast because it's got to be cold. Just put them in there. Okay, I'm going to wipe my fingers. Just mix this up. I'm doing that pause. Oh, you can't see. Doing that pause because flour likes to jump out of the bowl. I'm gonna start getting it so that the flour is not jumping up so much. I'll speed it up a bit. Okay, now I'm gonna go like at a medium speed. Whoops. All right, I'll use this. Still someone's gonna jump out. Oh yeah, so while we're waiting, I'm gonna get a measuring cup and put some ice water in it. Okay, it's looking like crumbs. It's not perfectly uniform, but it's good enough. Now, when we make a regular pie crust, I add 3 tablespoons of ice water, 1 at a time. Since I doubled the recipe, I'm not going to do it 6 times. I'm just going to use 2 tablespoons at a time. Just, still 3 times. So let's see how that goes. Here's this. And actually, I'm seeing a glob of shortening that I didn't notice before. But it's little, so it'll go in there. Okay, start off with 2 tablespoons of water. I wouldn't ordinarily be measuring, but I don't see a regular spoon handy, so I'll use this one. It's just flour on it. So 1, 2, beat it. You don't want to overbeat this. You want it to come together kind of gradually, but if you beat it too much, it's going to be tough. You don't want to develop the gluten is what it is. So now we're going to go 2 more. Here's 1, 2. Okay. Don't do it until it comes together completely. Not until you get all of this water in it. 3. Yeah. That was what? 5, 6. Yeah, gotcha. Now we want it to come together in a dough. Watch as the magic happens. Woohoo! It's coming together! Good enough. And there you have it. Yay! Pie crust. I've gathered it into a ball. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on my mat. And now I want to put it into some kind of shape that's going to be easy for me to cut in half. Because we're going to make 2 pie crusts out of this. And if you see a little touch of butter here and there, it's not going to be the end of the world. As long as it's not much. Okay, for me a square is easier to cut in half. So I'm going to do that. And I'm not going to use a sharp knife because I don't want to damage my mat. If you really want to be precise, you can weigh them. I can look at this and see that this is slightly smaller than this. So I'm just gonna use this for the top one. So I'll make it into a ball and I'm just gonna set it aside because I'm not ready to do this. Actually, I'm not ready to do this one either. So yeah, I'll just put them in this. And set them aside. Okay, now, let's get that out of the way. This is what I'm going to bake it in. Yeah, because I've got so many apples over there cut up. I don't even know if it's going to be able to fit in the deep dish pan, but we'll try. So what I'm going to do first, this is where the weirdness starts. I've had this butter sitting out since I started the process, so it's a little softened. I'm going to cut this in half. And use half of it to butter the dish. There's a lot of butter to use to butter a dish, but that's what we have to do. Okay. So you want to get the bottom really well. Oh gosh, Gosh, how are we gonna do this? This is so much. Do the sides. There's a lot of butter here. Okay, let's just mush it. I'm gonna try to get most of it on the bottom. As long as I have the sides greased, it'll come out. But mostly on the bottom, just as even as I can get it. All right, good enough. So now I want to, let's see, make sure I got a bunch on the sides. Actually, you know what? It's probably a good idea to go up along the lip also, at least a little bit. I don't want anything sticking to this. Okay. Nice moisturizer. I do this sometimes with coconut oil. When my hands feel dry, I'm in the kitchen. Anyway, all right, so now we're gonna get our pecan halves. Yeah. And we're gonna create some kind of design with the rounded side up. And I don't know what kind of design I'm gonna do. I don't know how this is gonna work. Kind of plant it into the butter. All right, I have done my pecans, made them in a nice spiral pattern. And in fact, I didn't use every bit of them. There were about, I don't know, 4 pecans left over, but this looks good and I want it to be a single layer. Okay, so now I need 2/3 of a cup of brown sugar. So I'm going to measure. And remember, brown sugar doesn't work like white sugar. You have to fill your cup and then press it down. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. Okay, here it is. Press it down and keep filling until you have 2/3 of a cup compressed brown sugar. Push it, add more, press it. That's close enough. Okay, so now what we're going to do is sprinkle it on top. Carefully, you want it to be evenly distributed. So I'm just kind of scraping it. Because if I dump the whole thing, I'm not going to be able to keep my pretty pattern. And it's going to be harder to do. Okay, so I have most of it here in the middle. I'm going to gently cover the top of the pecans as evenly as I can. And now I'm going to press it down. Actually, I'm going to use my hand. Just press that sugar down. Okay, there you go. Now, set that aside, and we need to roll out the pie crust. And we want to roll this out to a circle. Those cracks are going to give you some trouble, so let's try closing those cracks before I roll it out. Put a little bit of flour on top and roll it out. How big? Good question. Well, you might want to measure your pie plate. I'm guessing it's going to be about 12 inches. Oh, not 12. It's just a little over 11. Okay, that's fine. In that case, looks like I think we're good. So I'm gonna get this pie over here and get this crust on it. Okay, here's one way you can do it. You can just gently place, see it's sticking a little bit. I didn't have quite enough flour under there. And then you can pick it up like that and gently put it on top. Okay, so this is so weird to put pie crust on top of something else. Okay, so I was right. It should have been 12. Actually, I don't know. I have no explanation for that. So what I'm going to do is, okay, got that here. I'm going to kind of press the sides, try to bring some up to the top. This one that's going over, I'm going to trim that. I don't need all that. And put it someplace like here where I need extra. Just press it in. Okay. Make sure that it's at least going up over the sides all the way around. We are going to have more, more pie crust on top. I'll roll the other ones a little larger. Cut this too. And looks like I need some here. It presses into each other. I flipped it over, I don't know if you noticed, so that I wouldn't have the side that has all the flour on it. All right, I have my apple filling here. Now I need to add my cranberries and the juice. That 30 minutes was up a while ago. Now I'm going to stir that all up. I hope I can fit all of this into that pie crust. Okay. Wish me luck. Here's the pie crust. And let's see how much we can get in there. It's going to shrink some when it bakes. So if it's not level, that's fine. But are we going to be able to squeeze it all in? Dare I try? Oh my gosh. Why did it say so many apples? I'm trying. Holy mackerel. Look at that. I'm scared. That looks like I'm going to need a lot more than 12 inches on that other pie crust. But I'm going to go for it. Okay, I have covered it and trimmed the outer edges and crimped it with a fork just because I want to make sure that it's not going to leak. And then I took a sharp knife and put some little stabs around there to allow the air to come out, juices maybe. And now I'm ready to bake this thing. So I'm going to put it in the oven. Remember, the oven is at 450, really hot. I'm going to cook it for 10 minutes and then I'm going to turn the oven down. But I think because I've got this giant dome, I'm going to put some kind of sheet pan under it just in case it bubbles up and, you know, boils out. I don't want to mess in the oven. I've put it on a sheet pan, not a cookie sheet pan, because I want it to have a lip just in case a lot of juice comes out. I don't know what to expect. This is my first time. So I'm going to put this in the oven and cook it for 10 minutes at 450. I guess I didn't really need this. In the oven, in the middle rack. All right, and I'm gonna set the timer for 10 minutes. So the timer just went off. The pie has been cooking for 10 minutes, and now I'm gonna turn the temperature down to 350. That just means it is 350 or hotter. We know that. And now I'm gonna set the timer for 45 minutes. I hope it works. The pie is done, and here it is. So, if this goes well, you'll see this. If it doesn't, you won't. So here's what we're gonna do. I've got my platter here that I'm going to flip it on. But before I flip it, I'm gonna put the thinnest blade I have around the edges. I'm gonna be sure it's not gonna stick. So go all the way around. Don't go far enough that you're gonna cut into the dough. You just wanna release it from the edge. All the way around. Ah, shoot, I broke that. Oh well. Okay, here goes. Put this on top. No. I need pot holders. So, here's the pie. Here's the platter. Hold my breath. I hope I don't destroy this. And I'm gonna flip it over. Okay. Not much damage, a little bit. Now, can we pull this off? I hope so. Oh yes, it's coming up. Ooh, one of the pecans came out. I think it looks good. Gonna put this right back there. And there's your upside down pie.